It's, this instrument has a long voyage. It started, well, I spent about 13 months in a dark room meditating in India back in the 60s. And without daylight or seeing anybody else. At the end of that, I had some visions. Well, after you spend 13 months praying and you get a vision, you don't say no. You're in. Well, a sane man would have said no. But this is one of these things, if you knew what you're doing, you wouldn't do it. But you get in so far, you can't get away, and it has to be finished. So it took about 6 years. I didn't even know the vision was musical at the time. It was all color, light, there's sound, different things, but I didn't know it was musical in this sense. But a few years later, it started to dawn on me that it was first astrological and then musical. And that astrology and music theory are identical. 12 notes, 12 signs, you get the planets, 7 planets, you have the intervals moving between the planets. And if you take it into numbers, into the language of numbers, it's all the rhythms and the melodies and rhythms. The difference with astrology to numbers, I'm going to deviate here, okay, is just that astrology and life works by ellipses more than perfect circles. In human life, there's distortions. It warps a little bit this way, warps a little bit that way. But still, the cycles go on. And so, when I began to realize it was an instrument, I'd already had a fair amount of foundation in astrology by that time. And I kept saying, you can play this, you can play this. Instead of playing, living a lifetime, you can play it in a period of time. But what period of time? So then, when I built it, I wasn't trained musician at all. I didn't know an A from a Z, much less an interval, or rhythms, or any technical lines, or anything. But, so we started, and I took about 6 years to play with designs, just really floating in my head. It's coming in and out of consciousness, sort of seeing it, half seeing it, going through different designs and drawing for it. Then I told my friend, a friend of mine about a guitar maker, and he, Sergei Dejong, he's still a luthier and he teaches how to make guitars. He's on the web. He was great to help me. He's also a master of macrobiotics and knowing all the yin yang macrobiotics and things. So, and we had a familiarity from the astrology, from the I Ching, so connected us easily. So when I was explaining it, this could be played musically. And did he think it sounded practical? And that such a thing could be made? I shouldn't ask this question. He said, sure, you can come and make it in my studio. When do you want to start? So my bluff had been called. And from that point on, it was about 2 years of 70-hour weekends, going in and working in the shop. I hadn't worked in the shop before, and he guided me how to use equipment, what to how to line up the grains and the wood and things. So there's a big story. The wood, the main part of it is hardwood, plywood, hardwood core, which isn't made in North America, isn't made in South America, it isn't made in Europe. It isn't made in India. It isn't made in China. It isn't made in Australia. It's only one place in the world that makes hardwood plywood with hardwood core. We get hardwood glue, hardwood glue, hardwood glue. That's a very different thing than hardwood, 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 hardwood. So it's only made in Russia. Of course, when you order from Russia, they don't have 4x8s. They build everything on 5x5s or 10x10s. Take 10-foot-high ceilings, clip them up. So I ordered this hardwood, plywood, hardwood stuff. It finally came. Now I go up in my van and pick it up. It doesn't fit into the van. 5x5. So onto the roof it goes. But that was the beginning of this. It's still bigger than 4x8, so it doesn't fit in most vans. But we started building it. The mid part is just spruce. It's about 16 guitar tucks, have to be joined with 16 joints, smoothed out, with lattice work underneath it. Then the red for the spiral. See, in the center, this is the sun. The spiral is the Earth following it across a year. It's not just going around the sun. The sun's moving. The Earth is spiraling behind it, like you'd see a comet moving. It spirals behind it. It's moving as it goes through the galaxy. So this spiral, that was the sun with the spiral around it and the sense of a year. This was a big part of it. It's also like the bone in your ear, interestingly enough. So that was the first part of it. And originally, I had thought the spiral within a circle. I was going to make a spiral within a circle. It turned out the mechanics were not, it could have been done, but it was subtler. And I decided that I'd take the pyramid, which represents the seasons, and draw the circle in the pyramid, but the spiral within the square. So it's a two-stringed instrument, double-bridged instrument. The strings start from the center, they go over to spiral bridge, and they go over a square bridge. So the notes, they'll start, it goes down, and then it comes up. Then it goes down, but when it comes down again, the spiral's gone in further. It's a longer string. Then it comes up. We're so used to music in a straight line. There's a keyboard to there. Memorize the letters, A, B, C, D. There it goes. That's music. It's really just grammar lessons converted over to music a bit. But the sound, this makes a wavy sound. Going up and down, that goes around the circle. And there's no real beginning or end. You could say this is the beginning of the spiral. I put the beginning of the spiral at Aries. But really the beginning of the circle of the zodiac to Capricorn had the greatest darkness, which is the secret of indigo. Yeah, it would be indigo, or some say Christ. It's in that silence, the greatest darkness of the year, that inner point where light begins. And from that light, it just ascends. It's not till springtime. By the time spring starts in Earth, it's halfway through the year. Then it goes up to the longest brightness. Then it goes back down again. So this cycle was permeating within it. So we have the spiral, we have the spiral bridge, we have the pyramid, the square bridge, and we have a circle of frets. Frets, 360 frets on here. Took longer to make the frets and cut them and measure them and get them on, and then to make the whole instrument. That's why I thought they call them frets. There's a fret of them. But I wanted to use plastic, but we had a piece of whalebone in the shop. So, I don't know if you ever cut bone, but I had to cut these 1/4-inch pieces on a bandsaw. And I don't know if you're familiar with bandsaws. It's a big blade, goes around, it wobbles. You're trying to cut something that's 1/4 inch. It's kind of a miracle to do it. And so I would get wood, even get, you can't get close to it, and bone, it stinks. So like you gently push it up, and I'd get a strip of bone about this long, and half of it would be too thin, it would be warped. So it took a lot to just get these cut, and then each bone had to be filed on the top, both sides, to make it even, so there's an even point in the middle of it. Had to make sure they're flat on the bottom and on the sides. Then I had to calculate each of the strings with the intervals for the frets on the string. Then they had to be put on the harp and marked in, properly square, properly interval, and mark them all in, and then measure and put them all in on top. That's a nut. Okay, but each one was like, it was an exercise I hadn't done, and it had to be done, and at some point you just have to jump in. The bridge took the longest because it took me 3 times I built it to get it, because it was out a millimeter at the beginning of the spiral, it would be out a centimeter at the edge of the spiral, and that would throw the tuning all off. So it took 3 times. Then Sergey was helping, I was using the shop, he got married and he left. And I'm left with the unfinished instrument and no tool shop. So I got, he introduced me to another guitar maker, Jim Friesen, and he let me use his shop to finish it. But it took me 6 months of looking and being afraid to touch this instrument to fix the bridge. Because I have a spiral bridge, solid Purdue, it's anchored on the instrument, I have the whole thing's together, the holes are, the soundboard's drilled in, it's all fixed up. All I gotta do is drill a simple little 1/4-inch hole all the way along the edge of the spiral, so I can put the fret wire in. It sounds easy. It's not a straight line. So it had a whole mechanic of how to build this. So in the end, and you couldn't just use it as part of a circle because it's a spiral, and every section of it's kind of different. So there's a certain amount of wing in it. In the end, I built like a cross, and I stuck a hole in one end of it. I put a Dremel in there, and I held it along, and I finally just pulled it along. No mistakes, not that I can remember. But it took 6 months, because if I did it wrong, the whole thing was right. And my advisors weren't around. So it really has been an alchemical work. It's a map of the solar system. Inlaid underneath each string, on the fret, on the bridge, there's 64 hexagrams in solid and broken dots instead of solid and broken lines, light and dark dots. The stars inlaid in the sky are laid around it as they are the zodiac, as you have up here. Well, not exactly, got a couple mistakes up here. But really, it's all together. It's just the person didn't know the logos. So we got the logos of Virgo and Capricorn, Virgo and Scorpio reversed. But essentially, the constellations are inlaid here. And they're inlaid in such a way that if an astronomer looked at this and realized it's a map of the solar system in space, they could tell it was built in the 1970s. Because the precession of the equinoxes, where the stars were, it's the timing of where we are in space. And in time, from whatever levels it comes in. And so this was all part of the mechanics of the imagination. It was like, I wasn't sleeping much, I was too lit up about the ideas of it. At the same time, I'm not a musician. So I figured I built it, I get the strings on it, I'm done. Well, the strings themselves were an issue, but I got the first set of strings on it in April 9th, I think it was, 1979 when it was finished. I thought I'd finished my work. I'd got it built. There's strings on it. All right. Now, I was thinking just put all the strings on them, and they'll just the different spaces will tune it itself. Okay, I didn't have any concept that different strings would just break at a certain interval, at certain thicknesses. It cost me about 4 or 5, maybe 6 grand worth of different types of strings, and about 8, 9 years to get the first decent tuning system for it. Because it all keeps going around in itself. This is the 13th tuning system. So if any of you play piano, and you went away, went to home, went to sleep, you wake up, and you want to play piano, and someone's changed all the keys. That's happens when you change the tuning system on this. It's a new instrument. You have to memorize it over again. 72 strings. Okay, now, so this was some of the puzzles and some of the puzzles around it. But it really is the spiral, the circle of frets, and the square bridge. And in those harmonies, I just trusted them to make the sounds. So I didn't know if it would sound good. I didn't know if it would be easy to play. I knew it would look nice if I hung it on the wall by the time I finished. But I had no idea musically which way it was going to go. So I just ended up trusting the languages. And so once it was built, all of a sudden my work really just began. When I thought I'd be free, it hooked me in for another 30 years. I'm still just learning from it. So I wasn't trained in ear toning, like in scales or anything like this. In fact, in school, they threw me out of the music class because I couldn't sing. I had to mime or get the day off when the class choir was singing. That was back in the days when you were either talented or you weren't. And if you weren't, you're tossed. You're not in the class. So I learned it's a little different than that. Everybody has their spectrum, their voice, their frequencies. I had to start learning around music cycles. But I wasn't really tonally trained that well, so I started with percussion. Now, percussion seemed really, I'll take a snare drum. Okay, so I'll take a snare drum. Took a few less than about half a year in snare drum, okay. I said, okay, well, I'll go to the drum set. So I took another year in the drum set. It was fun, it was interesting. Then the percussion, it's very close where percussion starts getting to marimbas and other things, so you come to those scales again. And you get your sounds, and I'm running out of my, so I was doing some stuff at the conservatory, and then I sort of backed off again, so that's too much, I can't do all that. So then I backed off and I went and took some congas. About 2 drums, okay, use your hands, I'll go to that. So that's a year and a half. Kind of fun, learning different instruments, different cultures. Then I decided to take one African drum. If there's such a thing as one African drum, because one drum leads to another, until I had about 50 or 60 drums. Or some places you have to have a drum for each sound. And the drum set is like 15 drums. So, anyways, I got involved in this and I learned different rhythms, different percussions up to a certain point. Then I chant a lot. When I was in India, I chant a lot. I chant 2-3 hours a day. I have for maybe 40 years, probably longer. There was a funny day when all my drum beats, you're counting your drum beats, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, they changed to chants. They changed the names of God. What a difference. What a different world. All of a sudden, I let go to drumming. But I changed it. I changed to my clapping. But, so, anyways, so with I chant and I clap. And I chant all kinds of rhythms, all kinds of things while I'm chanting, but I'm not counting anymore. I'm saying names of God while it's happening. So this is my personal process in coming into this. So it's been, music is the universe. It's sound, it's vibration, it's everything. But it's always been totally intimidating for me to try and sing even with it, my goodness. I can chant for hours, but try and sing and have somebody judge what you're doing, all that hazing ritual of music. You know, where you're singing the right note or right note, that's almost worse than the hazing ritual of universities. When you get through your PhD or not. And you have to just persevere. So it's been up and down, and I've been on the edge of my incompetence or my insecurity around this forever. And now it's 40 years, and it may be my incompetence or my whatever, but it is whatever it is by now. It's not going to change much from what is. I was trying to say, well, you can't write a 2-minute song for this. You get 3 people on this, 4 or 5 minutes, you're just getting into it. I haven't been able to market it. It doesn't fit into any genre. Music is marketed. This is rock. This is jazz. This is new age. It's not new age. It's not electronic. It kind of sits on a fringe of jazz, but it's not mainstream jazz. It doesn't hold just it. So I haven't been able to market it. It's just been floating around. Do it. So I made myself make a CD a year with different people. We've done, I don't know if I've done, this is maybe the 7th performance with people in public, usually recording in the studio. Did a couple at the music gallery. Everybody liked it, but I rent a truck, get 2 people to help me carry it. I'm in $400 or $500 before it starts. So it's not something you can easily get a gig for. It has to be set up, whole big. I don't like the music industry, it's too much work. You know, you have to know all these things. But I did struggle with recording them and building it up, but it's been such a fun experience coming at music from any angle, from different sides, with 2 or 3 people on the instrument at the same time. It's like having your bass, lead, and rhythm all in the same place, and you have the different sensitivity with each other. So I refer to it as the great equalizer. You can only go with the lowest common denominator. Whoever's the weakest player, you align to that, and you do what you can, and you go along with it. So it's another unique thing about it. It's acoustic and percussive. Piano is just percussive. Strings, it has both. A zither, yeah, you can hammer it, but you can't normally pluck it. And then there's frets in every string, so you have 72 strings. You take your keys on the piano, but you have a scale for each string. It's a sound machine. It's easy to make noise with it, but the more people you get on, the more you have to structure it. 2 or 3 people, it's easy to wing it. As soon as you get 4, 5, 6, you have to structure pieces because it just. But I've had kids, 8, 9 years old on here, just come on it, and within a few minutes they're making music on it. You go, oh, what are they doing? But it's just in the play of coming at it. But in that play of coming at it, I'm coming at the pyramid. Each quarter is a season. Each string's a week of the year. When you fret it is each day of the year. The tuning system, probably one of the most sophisticated tuning systems. Originally it was pentatonic, and you could play all around it, and you could do no wrong. It'd always sound good. But after a couple of years of that, it was like living in Toontown. I can't take another nice song. If I hear another nice song, I'll kill somebody. So you want some contrast. It's like if you heard Pachelbel's Canon 100 times in the store. The next time you hear it, you're not going to buy anything. You're going to want to get out of the store. So, but it seems so nice to play. So it had a lot of nice, really melodic things with it. So I really had to research what Pythagoras did, what Confucius did, what different rhythms did in India, how different patterns will make, different tuning systems will make very different than our own. And in the process, something's worked out. This is the 13th system. I switched to a chromatic scale. So every 5 strings is a sign of the zodiac. 5 strings, 6 strings, 5 strings, they're signs of the zodiac. They're inlaid here. They're inlaid on the sides. Those are the marks for the signs of the zodiac. And the fixed signs are on the corners. And those are the 4 middle of each season. Now, it's easy to get lost in this. Oh yeah, so if you played your regular scale, here's a chromatic scale. 1 pass, but it goes out like that. If you took the regular scale of this, so you're playing notes opposite each other, so going out from the edges. So that idea came to me from kalimbas, thumb pianos. African thumb piano, they just have the strings coming out, they come out and look like a corner of this. I went, oh, look at that. And the tuning system fit. But it requires a different manipulation because I'm going back and forth to do notes, rather than one after the other like on a piano. And so this was a big breakthrough because by getting to chromatic scales, you can play with any other instrument now on their terms, rather than the instrument having to be tuned into what I'm playing. So this was just by itself. All the sounds you heard tonight is just Celestial Harp. But when you add a voice to it, a couple of opera singers, we had a couple of opera singers sing with just sounds without words. It was incredible. You put a sax to it, it changes it. You put anything with wind or anything around it, it just fits in between the strings. So this thing really vibrates and resonates. But they're short strings. This is an 8-inch string. So this is the longest string. It's 26 inches. Guitar strings are longer than that. They are guitar strings, but the bridge is longer than that, so it vibrates. But this doesn't vibrate that much, each string. But each string resonates with every other string around it, and you get a whole other sound of instrument. So it's hard strings. They're short. But they trigger off the resonance and the sympathetic resonances with all the others, and it just comes alive. So this is the adventure. I'm hoping one day, I'm getting older now, but one day I hope to find people who might want to get copies, want to make orders of it. If I get enough, then maybe I can get a company build it, or I can find some people who have some money who want to make them. Because I'm stuck with having the only one in the world right now. And now, where's the next point? This has taken most of my life and most of my resources to get it this far. So I was really happy. I've known Niall for years when I first came over to Toronto. And we had a lot of magical and mystical talks back then. I used to run a mystical library. But it was really nice when he called and said, do it here. How would you do a performance here? So you got a budget as low. He said, oh, jeez, I can't afford to do this. Then I thought about it for a day. He says, this is such a neat place to do it. I can't afford not to do it. So it just fit in here. You know, it just feels like right at home. So I thought, well, he'll just come, we'll do it. And that's how we got here. That was about a month ago. And so the examples we did today, just try to give them, there was hammering, there was sliding, there was plucking, and there was the weird thing, right? They made the extended thing, because I always wanted to bow it. There's nothing to bow it with. I made something with hair from a goat, like the skin and the hair, and I just made like a bow, like with fingers, but it didn't work that well. I had hammers that you could hammer, you could slide it and almost sort of bow it, didn't quite make it. So when I found this is called an e-bow, this little thing. It's two magnets with a little battery in it. But the two magnets only works in certain places, but the two magnets, when you put it over a string, vibrate the string. So it's an interesting thing. It was really made for guitars. And when you put it on the bass guitar and put it over the string, it goes over when it goes over the pickup, it goes whoa, it goes crazy. You can really get tremendous effects with it. I didn't have the pickups in the right places here where I could do that, but I could get the extended sound. So each thing, even getting the sticks, I made 4 or 5 different areas of sticks, but if you have them flat, they're falling over on you. I finally met a zither maker, and I must have had it through a folk music thing or something, but he made these hammers for hammered dulcimer. They were about 40 or 60 bucks a pop, but I had it flat, it was really well worked, and wow, that was a miracle. Then it really opened up the ability to control this and hammer it a bit. So then I had to get the hammering things. Single beat. Putting double beats. Putting triple beats, trying to get it together. It's just the language of trying to work with it. So this is where it is. You're at the stage in the evolution of it where this is what it did. All these sounds, just one instrument. It's hard to believe. You'd think it's a symphony. You know, like we're playing in it. So, well, that's basically it. And I just want to thank Nal for inviting me. And I want to thank you all for coming. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask.